let's go to Monday night. We have the Buffalo Bills making the trip downstate, well, really out of state because it's New Jersey, to play the Jets at MetLife. The Bills are 2.5-point favorites. The total 46.5, depending on where you look. Who do you like in the captain spot in this one?
Got to go with Garrett Wilson here, just because, he's already primed for a year two leap. But, going from Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers is only going to amplify that leap even more. Garrett Wilson saw the 4th highest inaccurate pass rate last season. Something Aaron Rodgers will surely help with. So his catch rate should go up. His target rate might go up too, because from what I've seen, it looks like Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson already have great chemistry. They look great in their limited preseason action together. Rodgers is known to lock on to his top target, so we could see Wilson have a Devontae Adams-like season here. So want to invest in him early, and especially in this matchup against the Bills, which could be a tougher matchup, but I think he and Aaron Rodgers are ready to rock from day one.
Yeah, they look good in the brief preseason time. Definitely. I mean, Wilson was just catching everything, and Rodgers was pretty much looking at only him. So
yeah,
it is intriguing heading into week one. Even though I do think in general this Jets offense, Rodgers didn't do a ton in the preseason, and the running backs have been kind of out of the loop, so it could be a little bit of a slower start for this Jets offense. But that just is more reason to use Wilson as a absolute target hog. For my captain, this is a game where I'm not super confident in a ton of players on either offense. So I kind of default to Josh Allen here, because you're going to have Stephon Diggs dealing with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed Jr. at corner. Gabe Davis really didn't do anything against the Jets in the 2 matchups last year. Diggs had one game where he had 93 yards, but did not score a touchdown. But generally, the Jets are going to be able to shut down wide receivers, and that leads me to Josh Allen's probably going to have to run with the football. So, he's going to get enough passing yards to be viable. But I do think this could be one of Josh Allen's bigger run games, because they're going to need it. So I'm looking at a potential, multi-touchdown rushing game for Josh Allen. And it's just in what I expect to be a defensive game. I think the total's a bit high, like 46. Probably shouldn't be that high. So, I know a lot of people, when you play DFS, you kind of look at those Vegas odds and you're like, okay, well, that's what the total is. That's how I'm projecting it. But I like to kind of have my own take on what the lines should be, and not just follow the market. And so I'm a little more keen on maybe mixing in some Bills defense, some Jets defense than I would in most weeks, because I do think this could be a little bit more of a lower scoring game where if one of those defenses scores a touchdown or something like that, you're going to need them. So Josh Allen for me in the captain spot. I be stacked.
Yeah, I agree that the total is probably a bit high. The Bills defense, I think they had like the second worst injury luck last year. I know Von Miller is going to be on the PUP list to begin the season, but their defense should be a lot better when healthy. So yeah, I also think this is going to be a lower scoring game. And honestly, the Cowboys Giants too, that total might be a bit high. So I think both these games might be lower scoring than people think.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cowboys Giants are just more uncertainty though, because no one's really seen this new offense with Waller and Hyatt, and no one's seen Cooks, and it's just like a little bit. I think there's a little more upside in that one. Where this one, we've seen these two teams, the Jets, and I mean I know it was Zach Wilson, but like we've seen the Jets hold the Bills down, and I don't see with the Bills healthy. I think they have a good shot of limiting the Jets as well. So who do you like for value? With all that being said.
So that's why I'm going with James Cook. The main reason is he's looking like he could be more of a workhorse back this year than I thought. I'm sure we'll see Damian Harris vulture some goal line scores here and there. But other than that, like he should see most of the work between the 20s, pretty much all the receiving work. So I think this could be a good spot to take him, because this Jets secondary is lethal. Like there's not an easy matchup there. So we could see Josh Allen use his legs more, or dump it down to James Cook a little bit more than usual. Plus, James Cook will be facing his older brother on the other side here, so even more reason for him to ball out. But I just love investing in James Cook early on because just based on his preseason usage, I think they do trust him to be more of a lead back. And whenever we've seen that in the Bills' offense, if you remember Devin Singletary at the end of, I think it was the 2021 season, when he saw more of a 3-down role, I mean, he was a legit RB2 option. So we could see that same upside with James Cook here, especially in a tougher matchup with the secondary. I think this is a good time to take James Cook in a showdown slate.
Yeah, I like Cook as well. I mean, that's really the guy I'd be targeting. It's really tough to get behind guys like Gabe Davis in this spot. I think the the running back duo on the other side for the Jets does have some intrigue because you had the Jets rush running backs, that is, in the first matchup. The Jet running backs combined for 30 touches, 156 yards, and a touchdown. And then in the second matchup, Jet running backs combined for 27 touches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Now, they're probably going to split snaps fairly evenly, which is somewhat of a killer. But if the Jets, get that kind of production again, which they might, because again, this Bills defense should be a lot better. You have Hyde and Poyer coming back, which means tight ends probably are off the table for this week. And outside of Garrett Wilson, I don't really know where Aaron Rodgers is going to feel comfortable going. Maybe some Allen Lazard if the Bills use Tre'Davious White in shadow coverage, but the Bills don't I don't know if they're going to do that a ton just because they're a very zone heavy team. So that kind of limits your ability to do that. They could do it. So Lazard is a guy I'm paying a little bit of attention. I'll have some exposure to, but I do think at least one of those Jet running backs has a productive day. I wish I could tell you which one. That's really the issue. I lean Dalvin getting a little bit more work, going against his brother and just not being the guy coming off a serious injury. I'd lean Dalvin, but it's a toss up.
Yeah, I could fully get behind a Cook brother stack here. I don't know where you're projecting their touches right now, but I haven't budged. I still have them both getting 10 to 12 each. But if anything, they have to give Dalvin more work week one, right? I think they're more worried about protecting Breece Hall, which is why they brought in Dalvin. So I think out of the two, I would still lean Dalvin week one, and then after that, who knows? But as of now, I'm projecting them the same until we hear otherwise, but not sure if you've heard anything one way or the other yet.
The only thing I heard was that they were both on the same plan. Breece because he's coming back from injury, and Dalvin because he just hasn't really run behind this line. He hasn't really practiced much with the team, and I think I believe he had a kid, or there was some personal reason why he, even once he signed, he missed some time. So it really is a toss. I mean, we could see a third back, whether it's Michael Carter or Israel Abanikanda. Is he healthy? I think.
No, he's still dealing with that thigh injury, and he's a rookie too. So I think Michael Carter might actually end up seeing a handful of touches if they really do want to limit both Hall and Cook here. Yeah,
so he's somebody to keep in mind, I guess, for dart throws. But it's just this is a tougher one. It's a tougher slate. Who do you like as a dart throw?
I like Deontay Hardy. Exactly. I mean, he called it months ago, right? But he's expected to be the starting slot receiver, which is a role that might not be as valuable in the Bills' offense this year, just because we're expecting to see rookie Dalton Kincaid operate in the slot at a higher rate. But we could see Hardy see a routes run rate in the 40 to 50% range, which would definitely be enough to make a difference on a showdown slate, especially in the Bills offense. And he's going to probably avoid Sauce Gardner in this slot. And while Michael Carter is a good slot corner, it still might be the best matchup for the Bills pass catchers. So I think Kincaid will probably dominate the slot snaps here, but if we have four wide sets, we could see Hardy get, like I said, like 40 to 50% routes run rate. So I think he's a good play here for week one.
Yeah, I was actually somewhat surprised. I mean, I thought Hardy the whole time was going to beat out Khalil Shakir, but I heard Trent Sherfield was having a pretty good camp, so I thought they might end up going with him as a starter
I think
in the slot, but it looks like Hardy is listed above him.
Yeah, I think so. Hardy's the slot guy right now. I think Sherfield's like when Gabe Davis or Diggs need a break, like he's their direct backup. So if one of those guys were to go down, he could end up taking most of their snaps. But yeah, I saw that he had a really good camp. But he's probably just more the direct backup of the boundary receivers. Whereas Hardy looks like he's probably going to dominate the slot snaps out of the gate. I'm sure Shakir will still mix in. But it'll probably be the Kincaid show, if I'm being honest. But at least initially, I think Hardy's going to be the main slot actual wide receiver.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. And that's kind of what I expected. And it's really, I think the odd man out, probably Khalil Shakir. Now, do they mix in maybe a couple of 5 wide sets? Sure, they're the Bills. But so, I think everyone has to be in play because it's just such a tough slate to project that, if Sherfield catches like one ball for 15 yards and a touchdown, that might be enough for that last slot in your roster to get you over the hump. So this is, I would kind of mix up exposure. It's a good one for multiple lineups here. But I think the dart throws for me are the 2 Bills tight ends, Kincaid and Dawson Knox, because again, you have those great Jets cornerbacks. The Jets gave up the 10th most PPR points to tight ends. However, a season ago, they were one of just 6 teams to give up over 1,000 receiving yards to tight ends one season ago. And Knox had a pretty solid game in one of the matchups, the second matchup against the Jets. He went 4 for 41 and a touchdown on 7 targets. And Kincaid, I think, will be relied on in this game as well, because you have to go somewhere with the football. And it's probably not going to be as much to those outside receivers as you would normally see for the Bills. So, yeah, I like kind of, getting Josh Allen and stacking him. Josh Allen in the captain spot. You don't really have to stack him, but, you can pay up for him and then just use his cheaper guys like Kincaid and Dawson Knox and Hardy, as you mentioned. And even, Cook, you can still stack him with him. And that might be the way to go because Diggs and Davis are probably a little bit overvalued.
And so like Kincaid Knox stack, I think that would be very sharp. Yeah, because Kincaid could get 5 catches for 50 yards, no touchdown, let's say, and Knox gets 2 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown, and they could both be in the winning lineup. I don't think that's a route many people are going to take. So that could be a really cool like contrarian stack. And if you were to set like 150 lineups, how many of those would have Reggie Gilliam in it?
Out of 150, I would probably have to go maybe anywhere from like 5 to 8. Maybe, like,
you got to have some. Either way, you got to have some Gilliam exposure here, right?
Yeah, I like 5. No, not probably not anything more than 10%, but realistically more like 5 to 7%. I think.
Yeah.
He will probably get a couple snaps here, but. With Kincaid here now, Gilliam, his role may change a little bit, and they also have Quentin Morris on the roster. I don't know if he'll be active in this matchup, but I would think he might be. So yeah, it's not a great spot for Gilliam, but like I said, it's a toss up here. There's not really a lot of guys we can confidently say you should roster this guy. And I know people don't want to hear that, but that's just the truth.
Yeah,
got to keep it real here. We know when we have good projections, and we know when there's a wider range of outcomes. I think that's part of being a good projector. So in this one, I think it's wide open. Okay, let's talk luck rankings real quick before we get out of here. Tell us about the luck rankings and who are the luckiest teams heading into the season, and who are the unluckiest teams heading into the season.
Yeah, so just as a refresher, the overall idea of the luck rankings is we look through the play-by-play data of every game and get like an estimate of how many points a team should have scored. And when you think of like an unlucky play, think of the Bengals-Ravens playoff game. We were sitting there watching that. And who was the running back? But
J.K. Dobbins, of course.
Oh, J.K. Dobbins, right. And the Bengals.
No, it was Huntley. J.K. Dobbins was the running back, but he didn't get the ball. And he was pissed. He was peeved. He's probably still peeved, to be honest.
And the Bengals, so it was first or second and goal from the 1, right?
Yep.
You just think they're going to punch it in. The Bengals snatched the ball from Huntley, I guess it was,
Yep,
and
Hubbard.
return it for a 99-yard touchdown. So not only should that probably have been a touchdown for the Ravens, the Bengals probably shouldn't have gotten a touchdown there. So that was just a massive swing. So those are the things we're looking for. Those happen every game. So we're just trying to assess, which teams maybe are getting lucky or unlucky. And Nick Giffen, the brainchild behind the formula, actually went back to 2018 and looked at games where we were showing a luck difference of 24 greater or a luck gap of 50% or more. And the unluckier team went 96 and 54 and
Woo.
4 against the spread. So a 64% clip. So this is a theory that I've tried to apply in the past, a little bit more informally, but I'm just trying to get the teams, even like my perception might be off on a team because I'm not aware of these plays. So that's the overall concept of this. And if we look back at last season, the top 5 luckiest teams in order were the Vikings, Eagles, Giants, Bills, and Chiefs. And, the Vikings, it's pretty obvious. They went 11-0 in one-score games. That's, a metric you're typically going to see a team go 500 in those games. So the Vikings were by far the luckiest team last season. And the top 5 unluckiest teams in reverse order were the Texans, Browns, Bears, Colts, with the Saints being the unluckiest team last season. So we think, the Saints will probably bounce back in terms of like underlying metrics that come down to luck. And they actually, to start the year, they got the luck of the easiest strength of schedule. So they're a team that, in theory, we think should bounce back when it comes to these underlying metrics.
Yeah, these are great. I've used them last year and had a lot of success with them. I think the idea behind them is great. Looking at these teams, the luckiest and the unluckiest, I think these have been kind of evolving for you guys. These are luck rankings 2.0 now, right?
Yep. Yeah, Nick spent all summer updating it, trying to make it sharper. Like I said, going back several years and reapplying these and back testing and things like that. So we've updated the back end of this. The same theory applies, but we're trying to make this even sharper. So we're fully confident in these heading into the season.
Yeah, I think you guys are kind of on the precipice of these evolving into something I don't even know if you intended, but I think you're also along the way in kind of creating these luck rankings. I think you're also kind of getting closer than a lot of people have to kind of quantifying the effect of coaching. Because when I look at the top 5 luckiest teams, that essentially means they outperformed expectation, right? Well, look at these teams. Vikings, okay, well, Kevin O'Connell in year 1. I mean, say what you want, but, they went from never winning one-score games to winning all of them until the playoffs. Then the Eagles, Sirianni, that coaching staff, Gannon and Steichen both got poached. The Giants, we know how good Brian Daboll is. The Bills, we know how good Sean McDermott is. And the Chiefs, nothing else to say there. So, like, I'd love to see kind of, like, maybe using some of that same data to try to go deeper into that. Because even with the unluckiest teams, Texans, well, they had Lovie Smith in as a tank commander. You have the Colts. We all know how I feel about Frank Reich, and Jeff Saturday was also coaching that Colts team. And then the Saints, Dennis Allen has a 15-38 straight up record as a head coach in the National Football League. So, like, I think these luck rankings are also in some ways coach rankings. So I'd love to see you guys kind of dig a little deeper into that, because that's what really, like, it's just screaming at me as I look at this list.
For sure. I think the Eagles specifically, I've seen some metrics out there that actually try to quantify like in-game decision making, and Nick Sirianni is usually the top coach, which makes sense because he's very analytical. Even like when I was researching for the Super Bowl timeout prop, which I'm still bummed didn't hit, it should have, but he is very efficient just in calling timeouts, which seems, silly on the surface, but that just goes to show, what a hard-nosed kind of analytical process coach he has. But when it comes to the Eagles, there's no denying they probably have one of the best rosters in football, but they also had, the second best injury luck last year. So there are some things that they were actually benefiting from luck and have great coaching and have a good roster. So they just had everything go their way that last year. And I'm not saying I'm going to fade them out of the gate. But I think they do set up as a team that we could potentially fade in specific spots just because there are some underlying metrics that they probably don't have as much control over. But yeah, that's a great call. I thought the same thing when I'm looking at the top 5 luckiest teams. I'm like, they all have phenomenal coaching, so that could be part of it, and certainly is.
Yeah, and I'm like, if these are already going like 64% over like a very large sample, like imagine if you're able to kind of separate out more of the coaching, like you could get to like 75%. Like it might be ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that we obviously just don't want to we don't want to just blindly fade great coaches. I think that the real underlying thing here, and which I was saying I would be guilty of, is just our perception of these teams might be higher or lower. So it's more of just beating the market.
Yep.
Specifically, like everybody knows the Eagles are one of the best teams in the league, so everybody's going to want to bet them. These would just kind of urge caution against that, maybe find spots where, they might go the other way. And, we're betting against an imaginary number. So the spread might be inflated just due to our perception, including myself, being a little too high or too low on these teams. So it can kind of go hand in hand, but that's kind of the overall theme of these and why I think they're successful. But yeah, if we were able to parse out, coaching decisions and things like that, and make these even more accurate, yeah, maybe we'll hit 70%. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are on there, and we know that despite the great quarterback and the great coach, that team almost never covers when it is favored by more than a field goal. So it's like it's a lot of times it's just the perception. You might end up finding that, hey, great coaching, it can identify great coaching, but at the same time, that might not necessarily be relevant to the market. So it's just very interesting. These are great. I urge everybody to check them out. You can find them on actionnetwork.com or in the Action Network app. But yeah, these are really great, and we'll be highlighting these all season long. But that is going to do it here for us on the Fantasy Flex Night Shift podcast for week 1. Be sure to check out our full player projections episode if you want to hear us talking more in depth about a lot of the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends on the week 1 main slate. And we also have our fantasy preview episode right here on this channel. So a lot of fantasy content for you guys. Be sure to check it out. actionnetwork.com for all of our fantasy and betting content. fantasylabs.com for our DFS tools and models. Sean is on X at @the_oddsmaker. I am at Chris Raybon, and we're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Thanks for listening. Good luck in week 1, and let's get this money.